begin my presentation, I would like to introduce to you a few individuals who inspired me.
Oh, he's turning out so good now.
But Alex tells us before he got the arm.
Some people would say, what happened to your arm? And how did that happen? Or all that bad stuff. I don't like it.
We'd stand in front of the class just from when I was 5 years old. And then I would talk about my arm. I would take it off and I would show it to them, and I thought it was so cool. I never thought there was an issue with my arm. And then I met kids, and I met other adults, and I started to realize that everyone doesn't think this is as cool as I do. You know, I had kids that were afraid of me. I had a kid that cried when I took off my arm.
Trying to wrap my head and my heart around everything that happened. To this day, I still have nights where I'm crying because I'm frustrated with everything. You know, I grab my leg and it's not there anymore.
Hello, my name is Nicholas McKinley, and I am a junior at Capstone Academy and the reporter of Paulding County's Senior 4-H Club. And today, we will be redefining superheroes and understanding how technology can affect a person's mental, physical, and social development. Today we will be talking about the human side of bionics, my personal journey through this subject, the statistical data, technology and its impact it can have on an individual's life, and I'll also introduce to you a few modern day superheroes. Now, ever since I've been a young boy, I've had a huge interest in robotics, whether it was with building things with Lincoln Logs and Legos, and I was always looking things up on the internet. Although, when I was 4 years old, my family and I would watch a show where a family had adopted a bunch of young children who were missing limbs. Because of this, doctors had given them simplistic prosthetic limbs. It was when I saw this, I stopped, turned to my mom, and said I would make robotic limbs for children just like these. Next, when I was 9 years old, my family and I went to Georgia Tech, the Center for Prosthetic and Orthotic Research, where I met Mr. Robert Kistenberg, who taught me everything I would need to know about prosthetics. Although it was after hearing these few words from my current mentor that I started to gain an interest into the human side of prosthetics.
For me, it's the technological side which intrigues me. The human side is really what it's all about. To interact with the human and to meet the body language of the person. If I could have the best technology in the world, I can't get into that person's head and coach them and mentor them and to feel good about themselves instead of depressed and never get up and do it.
This man is Kevin Carroll, who is an Irish prosthetist who is the vice president of Hanger Prosthetics. You all may know Mr. Carroll through the movie Dolphin Tale, where he creates a prosthetic limb for a dolphin. It was after this interview that I started to look into the statistics of prosthetics. Globally, there are 1 million annual limb amputations, and in the United States, there are 2.1 million people living with limb loss. The annual cost is over $12 billion, and there is over 1,500 military personnel who suffer from limb loss due to the wars in Afghanistan. But the main thing that we have to realize is that each of these numbers is an individual person, and that there are 2.1 million people living with limb loss in the United States. And this number is expected to double by 2050. And around 30% of the people who suffer from limb loss experience some form of depression or anxiety. To put this number into perspective, this is bigger than the entire population of Atlanta. On the beginning of this presentation, we heard from Christy Ennis, and on the 1-year anniversary of her helicopter accident, she tried to end her own life. And the one thing that we have to realize is that even though these people may look different from us, that each of them is a mother, father, son, and daughter, and that each of them has their own story that makes them their own superhero. Now, even though their journeys may be hard, the Amputee Coalition is there to help each and every single one of them, where their mission is to help empower people affected by limb loss. Some of the ways they help them is by showing them that limb loss is not uncommon and how it is becoming less uncommon every single day, by telling them that no amputee is ever alone and helping them cope with the factor of limb loss. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor and Statistics, in 2018, there were 9,100 orthotists and prosthetists in the United States. and this number is projected to grow by 20% from 2018 to 2028. And because of the work that these orthotists and prosthetists do, they are their own modern-day superheroes. Because of Mr. Carroll, I have had the opportunity to interview many different prosthetists, clinicians, and patients. An example of one being Mr. Billy Fletcher, who is a Master 4-H'er. I have also been able to volunteer over 40 hours at a hanger clinic, where I had the chance to shadow some of the many clinicians working there, where I was also able to meet and interview many of the patients who had come into the clinic. During these interviews, I was able to learn a specific factor about wearing a prosthetic. Although the main thing that I learned is technology and its impact that it can have on an individual's life, how you have to find the right prosthetic for each person. And it was after this that I thought back to Mr. Carroll's quote on how you have to get them to feel good about themselves. There are many different conditions that need to be met for a person to wear a prosthetic. The first being the prosthetic limb has to fit the individual. One of the patients that had come into the clinic had received the most advanced microprocessor legs, but because it was causing him discomfort and pain, he did not want to wear it. One of the ways Mr. Carroll has helped solve this problem is through his creation of Winter's Gel. Winter's Gel is applied to the residual limb, which can help reduce rashing and swelling. The next factor being function and reliability. Another patient had received the most advanced myoelectric prosthetic arm, but he also had a simple passive arm. And due to the fact of a simple battery malfunction, he preferred the passive arm, due to the fact that it had less of a chance of breaking or malfunctioning. For patients who suffer from lower body limb loss, it is crucial that their prosthetics be able to bend at the knee, although they have a much wider variation to choose from for prosthetic feet, ranging from microprocessor feet, which can help with movement and stability, to simple cosmetic feet. When all these conditions are met, it allows an amputee to walk with a natural and human-like stride. One of the patients who received these microprocessor legs, and when all these conditions were met, even told us that he would be able to walk again. For patients who suffer from upper body limb loss, it is important that their prosthetics be able to bend at the elbow, but also be able to rotate at the wrist as well. The diagram here is an example of a myoelectric arm. They usually feature electrodes, which are featured in the prosthetic socket, which read and recognize patterns and signals from the residual limb. They also feature a control unit and a battery pack. When I was able to interview Taylor Jones, he showed me how a myoelectric arm works. The electrodes in the prosthetic socket will read and recognize those patterns and signals from the residual limb, which control the prosthetic limb you are seeing now. According to the American Orthotic and Prosthetic Association, it is a proven statistic that patients who receive a higher quality of prosthetic will receive a higher quality of life. And it was after this that I thought back to the children I saw when I was 4 years old and how they had received such simplistic prosthetic limbs. I was able to interview Dr. Shane Warderman, who is the Director of Clinical Research at Hanger Prosthetics, where he shared with me that children only constitute 5 to 10% of the entire prosthetic population. So where do parents go when they have children who suffer from limb loss? Well, ever since Albert Minero, a grad student at the University of Central Florida, and Robert Downey Jr. presented a young man with his very own prosthetic, I have been following Limitless Solutions. Limitless Solutions is a nonprofit organization which focuses on creating customizable 3D printed prosthetic limbs for children. Now, because their prosthetic limbs are 3D printed, this makes them much more cost efficient, where their price can range anywhere from $600 and can be resized for as little as $70, although no child is tasked with paying the price for their prosthetic limb. And because of the work they do at Limitless Solutions, they are their own modern-day superhero. Now, I had the opportunity to interview both co-founders, and during that interview, we were able to talk about some of the issues that they face with their prosthetics. Limitless Solutions does not only create prosthetic limbs for children, but it also creates life-changing experiences for the children who get them, which not only teaches them how to use their prosthetic limbs, but also how to be more acceptable towards them. And because of this, each child up here is their own superhero. Now let us revisit the few individuals that we heard from at the beginning of this presentation and see how they have become their own superheroes. Alex Spring was the first of Limitless Solutions Bionics Kids, and after receiving his prosthetic limb at Superhero Day at school, he now has enough confidence to dress up as himself. Angel Bifuera was the youngest baby in the world to receive a myoelectric prosthetic arm. She has completed a master's thesis and has become an advocate for people limbless. She has also become a successful actress, even being featured in the movie The Hunger Games. Finally, Christy Ennis is a retired Marine Corps sergeant who has created her own foundation, which has raised and donated $1 million to veterans. And in 2019, she was given the SP Award for her service. I hope these few individuals have inspired you, and thank you for watching my presentation.